Assalamualaikum students, this is Muhammad Kamran Malik, Principal KIMS, and I love teaching economics. My today's video is about important topics and important questions for November 2024 exam series. So this video is about A-Level Economics 9708 paper 22. I think this paper is scheduled for 9th of October. Best wishes for that. So if I tell you briefly the important topics, I'll say income elasticity of demand, which we call MED or maybe YED. And the other topic which is very important from micro is production possibility curve. And two topics which are important from macroeconomics are fiscal policy and types of unemployment. So let me give you a little detail about the important topics and important questions. First, we talk about the micro portion. So as I said, income elasticity of demand, its usefulness for businesses. Now that's a question which has been asked in previous exam papers as well. What is the usefulness of income elasticity of demand for businesses? It helps them recognize the businesses. It helps businesses recognize whether the goods they make are normal goods or they are inferior. And the sign of income elasticity of demand tells them about that. And that is how they can prepare their strategies. For example, if incomes are rising, they should raise the production of better quality goods. For example, they should convert a basic bed and breakfast hotel to a 5-star hotel, or maybe a small car with basic variants to a luxury car, or maybe an airline should expand the area for business class travelers. As with rising income, demand for normal goods such as business class travel will go up. Similarly, if incomes are falling, then they should probably produce more of goods which are inferior. Now, inferior word doesn't carry a good connotation, and low quality goods also doesn't carry a good connotation. So what will I say? I'll say prepare goods which are more economical, which have basic features. For example, a bed and breakfast hotel would be in greater demand compared to a 5-star luxury hotel when incomes fall, because when incomes are low, demand for inferior goods such as a bed and breakfast hotel goes up. Maybe there is a showroom which deals in, let's say, latest iPhone and latest brands of Samsung. They should probably convert or probably devote a section to Chinese phones which are relatively cheaper when incomes fall. That is the usefulness of MED for the businesses. But the usefulness of MED for the governments, maybe they can help their tax policy accordingly. They can see if incomes are going up, the areas, the regions which produce normal goods, better quality goods, employment in those areas will go up. But employment in areas which produce basic products may fall, and government can tailor their policies accordingly. Please look at the sample answers I provided in my books. The other important topic is price elastic demand and cross elasticity demand and their usefulness for businesses as well as for the governments. Another question which could be important, and that is, does the rise in income raise demand for all types of goods? So the answer would be no. It depends upon the nature of product. If income goes up, demand for normal goods will go up, but demand for inferior goods would go down. So this is a frequently asked question. And usefulness of PD and XCD, that is cross elastic demand, again the sample answer is available, and I like you to go through my sample books, and I will urge you to strongly prepare February-March 2024 examination paper. It's very important, particularly the micro section. Please do prepare both questions of February-March 2024 exam paper, and they'll be very important for forthcoming November exam series. Another topic that is very important for micro is production possibility curve. You should be aware how to draw a PPC accurately. You should be aware what is the difference between a movement along a PPC and a shift in the curve, and what causes a movement along the curve PPC and what causes a shift in it. And you should be aware how can PPC be used to explain various microeconomic concepts such as opportunity cost, scarcity, economic problem, efficiency, and how can PPC be used to explain various types of macroeconomic problems, such as unemployment, such as full employment, such as economic growth. So you should be aware of these topics. Please do prepare the link of PPC, the slope of PPC, and declining opportunity cost. Why does opportunity cost fall? Again, a sample answer is available. Opportunity cost rises along a PPC. Why? Because factors of production are not equally homogeneous. If we keep producing more of one thing, by bringing factors from one area to another area, and for that another area, workers are not equally efficient, equally skilled, the opportunity cost would rise because there will be more wastage and there will be higher retaining cost. Another microeconomic topic that is important for this examination paper is whether all market economies should be converted into mixed economies. The argument for free market economy and the argument for greater role of the government, both should be given, and then there should be a comparison of the two systems and there should be a conclusion. Again, a sample answer is available in my booklet for this particular topic. The distribution of taxes between consumers and producers. When a tax is imposed, indirect tax, does the burden of this go only to the consumer or only to the producer, or it is shared, and on which basis it is shared? Now that's another important area which I would like you to prepare for this coming examination. And what will be the impact on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity if demand or supply of a product changes, and will that impact be similar in the short run or in the long run? Briefly, let me tell you that if demand of a product goes up, price will go up, quantity would go up. In the short run, it's more likely price would go up and quantity will also go up, but only slightly. But in the long run, more firms will be coming, more firms will be attracted because of higher demand and higher price and higher possibility of profits. So in the long run, maybe greater impact on quantity and smaller impact on price. So that type of question could also be asked in the micro section. And you know, in micro section, you have to do one of the two questions. So that is all for micro section. For macro section, the two important topics: fiscal policy, types of unemployment. Please do prepare them. Let's elaborate. Which type of unemployment is more harmful, cyclical or structural? Structural, which is because of the permanent decline of one particular industry. It may be less harmful than cyclical unemployment, which affects the overall economy. However, if the industry is a strategic industry, if the main industry, for example, textile industry is Pakistan's backbone, it is the backbone of Pakistan's economy, it is the major contributor in Pakistan's exports. So if something happens to textile industry, there will be a structural unemployment, but the impact could be much more severe and much more harmful. So that's the question you should be preparing. What is the role of fiscal policy in solving the problem of unemployment? That's the question you should be preparing. Fiscal policy raises expansionary fiscal policy, higher government spending, lower taxes, budget deficit, injects demand into the economy, raises aid to the left, and that may create demand for more goods and services, and that may lead to demand of more workers, as the demand for labor is a derived demand. More AD means more output, and more output you need more workers to produce that. However, this may help demand deficient unemployment, the cyclical unemployment, but fiscal policy may be less effective in controlling supply side policies. Let me tell you one very important thing. Whenever there is a question about one policy, you must compare that policy with another policy to get good marks. So if question is about fiscal policy, do compare it with another policy, for example, supply side or monetary policy, even though it's not mentioned in the question. And same applies to the micro section. If the question is about one policy like maximum price, you must compare it with at least one more policy. So fiscal policy, effectiveness, evaluation, limitations. Fiscal policy may not be sustainable, particularly for a country which has huge budget deficit. It is not very easy for a government which already had budget deficit to further decrease taxes or further raise government spending. So that could be evaluation. Fiscal policy again may cause shortage of funds for private sectors as government will be forced to borrow more. When they borrow more, liquidity available for private sector borrowers will shrink, and while government spending goes up and AD goes up, private sector spending may go down because of inability to borrow, and that may be crowding out, and that could be evaluation of fiscal policy. And fiscal policy, as I said, may not be effective in addressing structural unemployment, which probably for that type of unemployment, supply side policy is more useful. Another area of macroeconomics which I think is important is whether to what extent depreciation of currency or high inflation will lead to current account deficit. The link between inflation and current account deficit, and the link between depreciation and current account deficit. Depreciation makes exports cheaper, imports expensive. Assuming PED for net exports is high, Marshall-London condition is not part of AS course. You don't need to refer to that, but you do need to refer to PED of net exports. So if PED for net exports is high, depreciation of currency may lead to lower deficit. But if PED is low for net exports, in that case, depreciation of the currency will raise current account deficit. Similar case is for inflation. Inflation makes a comparatively high inflation rate compared to other countries will make exports expensive, imports cheaper, and it may lead to a current account deficit, again depending on price elasticity of demand, again depending upon what is the level of import barrier. If other countries reduce import barriers on their imports, even with high inflation, we may still be able to export more. And we may still be able to export more if we are producing goods which have low PED. For example, oil. If a country is exporting oil, even if there is inflation in that country, it may not affect their exports. So these are the areas which will address the three words in that question. To what extent? So inflation is expected to raise current account deficit, but if PED is low, it will not happen like that. If import barriers are reduced, or if incomes in other countries rise, in that case, exports may not fall. Another very important area for macroeconomics is the linkage between internal and external value of money. Internal value money is because of inflation rate, is the purchasing power of money within the country. External is the exchange rate. So there is a circle. Now, if inflation goes up in a country, purchasing power of money, internal value of money goes down. That makes exports expensive, import cheaper, demand for exports falls, demand for currency falls, and exchange rate falls. External value of money goes down as well. So when internal value of money goes down, it is likely that the external value of currency will also go down. Similarly, if external value of currency goes down, that is depreciation, that is devaluation. Devaluation is A2 course topic, depreciation is AS topic. So if currency value goes down, that will make exports cheaper, imports expensive, net exports goes up, net exports go up, AD goes up, and that may lead to demand pull inflation. Similarly, depreciation of currency, that is decrease in external value of money, imports are expensive, cost push inflation goes up, and that leads to decrease in internal value. So in this brief discussion, what I am telling you, when internal value of money goes down, this leads to a reduction in external value of money. And when external value of money goes down, it leads to a decrease in internal value of money. Another important macroeconomic topic for paper 2 for forthcoming November exam series is economic growth. Is economic growth always desirable? Now that's the question I want you to prepare. Yes, economic growth is desirable because economic growth raises incomes. It improves living standards. It creates job opportunities. It encourages investments, consumption. It improves confidence of people. It raises the access of people to health, to education, to better living standards. It gives government more tax revenue through direct taxes because people are earning more income, more tax revenue through indirect taxes because people are spending more tax revenues to the government through import duties because people are importing more, and more tax revenues to the government in the form of corporate taxes as people are or the firms are making more profits. So more tax revenue and government has more fiscal space to spend on the welfare of people. So that is why economic growth is desirable. However, it is not desirable because with economic growth, there is increased production activity that may lead to rapid depletion of resources, that may cause pollution, that may cause negative externalities, even though their negative externalities is part of A2 syllabus, but you may mention it over here. Rapid depletion of resources because of increased production pace. That is, of course, the outcome of economic growth. Second, there could be increased income inequalities because rich may become more rich as they probably are getting more benefit of economic growth. So economic growth may not necessarily, the benefit of economic growth may not necessarily be divided equally among people. And third, the impacts of economic growth on import, on trade balance. What will happen? Economic growth, more income. More income means more buying of consumer goods. That will lead to higher imports and higher trade deficit. Again, economic growth leads to better or faster economic activity, and that also leads to more import of machinery and raw materials, and that will lead your current account into a deficit, and that could be a problem for the country. So yes, economic growth is good. However, economic growth is not free of challenges. So that is a evaluation part of this question as well. Let me see if there is another question. So, theories of absolute and comparative advantage. This is a question which has been asked in a previous exam series, but I think this question may come again in a future exam series. So this is also should be prepared. And the last but not the least, which macroeconomic problem is more serious? Inflation or current account deficit? So that comparison, or maybe which type of macroeconomic problem is more harmful? Unemployment or current account deficit? So that comparison between internal and external problems, that could also be a part of the syllabus. Please let me remind you that since March 2023, there is a new pattern of exam paper. There is a new pattern of mark schemes, particularly for part A answers. I will strongly recommend you to prepare questions or prepare question paper which are after March 2023, and you will find the essay booklet I prepared for sample answers very, very useful. Do not hesitate to ask questions if you have any. Best wishes for your exam.